Meet Lucky, a cute little snuggly fox whose best mate Piggy, a walking snorting piggy bank, has been kidnapped by an evil octopus who likes to live at large by feasting on pork chops whilst bathing in a pool of cash. Luckily for Lucky, Piggy's left behind a trail of coins that Lucky follows in the hope of finding and saving his buddy. There's one thing that the developers from Playful seem to have understood. If the plot of the best platformer in the world revolves around a deluded plumber who, following a magic mushroom binge, chases after some fine broad who's been kidnapped by a giant fire-breathing turtle rocking a Mohican, then as far as the plot is concerned, anything goes. But this isn't the only cue that Playful's taken from Nintendo. In fact, almost every aspect of Lucky's tale has been inspired in some way or another by the Mario games that precede it. If not for the novelty of playing a platforming game in VR, everything the game has to offer feels familiar. From its vibrant and colourful world to the cute huggable characters and its gameplay mechanics, it all feels and plays a lot like a watered down version of Super Mario World 3D. This isn't to say that the game shouldn't be allowed to stand on its own merits. After all, who can blame the developers for aiming for the best that the genre has to offer? Arguably, the most important feature of platforming games is the actual gameplay, and this is one aspect that the developers have absolutely nailed. Jumping around from platform to platform is a breeze with tight controls that inspire confidence. Bouncing off of enemies and tail whipping them in the face whilst avoiding projectiles becomes second nature thanks to being able to accurately judge the distance between Lucky and his surroundings within the three-dimensional world of VR. Speaking of VR, the technology lends itself surprisingly well to the game. Besides the aforementioned advantage of being able to judge the distance between things, the world of Lucky's tale really comes alive in VR. The use of simplified cel-shaded graphics with vibrant colours is highly effective for this medium. Not only does it mean that the game runs buttery smooth, even on the GTX 680, but God rays are completely eliminated thanks to the lack of high contrast environments. As a result, the visuals feel ironically sharper and more impressive than some of the more graphically demanding games. Tailoring the visual experience with the wrist's strengths and weaknesses in mind was a clever move. The end result alleviates or even nullifies some of the most common complaints related to hardware, such as resolution in God rays. Levels are designed in such a way that the depth of field feels deliberately pronounced. Narrow tunnels followed by open spaces that expand into the distance, as well as the use of verticality within the environments, really adds to the sense of awe experienced from being in VR. I highly recommend playing this game on a swivel chair. Being able to circle around Lucky to better spot hidden content, find a better camera angle, or simply to marvel at the environment from all directions seriously adds to the immersion. It takes roughly 3 hours to get through the main game, which by video game standards is piss poor. This is especially true when considering that the game forces you to replay some of the levels so that you can win enough medals to unlock the next stage. Gaining extra medals can be achieved by playing time trial mode or by finding 20 red coins hidden around each level. Considering that the game is completely free, I consider the short playthrough to be acceptable, especially given that the end result is so polished. For those that enjoy doing speedruns, getting a gold medal in time trial mode is extremely challenging and encourages the player to take bigger risks in order to save precious milliseconds. On the other hand, as much as traversing Lucky's treacherous 3D environments might give Candy Crush playing wives a run for their money, seasoned gamers will find that story mode lacks any real challenge. My biggest gripe with the game is that even though it only takes a few hours to complete, the lack of variety entails a lot of repetition. Granted that the gameplay mechanics are solid, besides jumping around and tail whipping, that's pretty much it. There are no power-ups, special moves, unlockables or funky outfits that offer substantial changes to the gameplay. At certain pre-designated points during the game, Lucky gains access to bombs which can be thrown at targets or enemies. This is a neat feature as the player takes aim by looking directly at the target, allowing for a high level of dexterity. That said, I don't feel like this game mechanic was exploited to its full potential. The bomb target feature works best when Lucky is under pressure to take aim whilst moving and jumping at the same time. Unfortunately, this doesn't happen enough. Despite the well-designed levels, they all look and feel the same, even in the underwater sections of the game. There are sectors within every level that are reminiscent of the drain pipes in Mario games where Lucky digs a hole in the ground and is transported to an underground area. Presumably these were implemented to add diversity to the game, though they end up making it feel even more repetitive. This is due to the fact that these areas consist of the same monotonous and restrictive rectangular shaped play areas with minor changes to the layout. Halfway through the game I found myself rushing through each level out of boredom just to see what was next, only to find out that what was waiting was more of the same. Some of the best moments in the game occur during boss fights, which unfortunately there are only 2 of in the entire game. It's a shame because additional bosses could have added some much needed variety to the gameplay. With its childish looks, lack of challenge and simplified gameplay, Lucky's Tale appears to have been catered to a younger audience. This seems rather odd considering that the Rift is considered unsuitable for players under the age of 13, and that the average age of Rift players is 30 plus. However, it does help considerably when attempting to justify to your wife why you just spent £500 on a toy instead of taking her on a romantic vacation. I did enjoy Lucky's Tale, if only for the novelty and joy of playing a polished platformer in VR. In the coming years, Lucky's Tale may well be forgotten amongst the heap of glorified tech demos that serve the noble purpose of giving VR enthusiasts a sweet glimpse into the future of gaming. But it's all good, because I kicked that octopus's ass and saved Lucky's best mate so that when the time comes and Lucky's been abandoned by gamers, he'll still be smiling because best friends are forever.
Hey.